Clemson's Greatest Games is brought to you by Roto-Rooter. When you need a local plumber fast, call Roto-Rooter. And by First National Bank. Find a branch or ATM near you at fnb-online.com.
From the pocket, looks down the field to Theon Kane, and he collects it for a Clemson touchdown. Clemson in the pocket, shoots it downfield for Kane again, who makes a diving catch for the touchdown. And taking a shot, losing the ball. Clemson's got it. Watson kicks it, pitches it across the middle. Touchdown, Williams. Forsyth out of the backfield, didn't see him and throws a pick. Slant, Scott. Fight spring and walks in. A 1-2 punch from the Tigers.
(2011) Clemson going on the road to take on Maryland, and what a season it's already been for these Tigers. Wins over Auburn, a ranked team, a ranked Florida State team, a ranked Virginia Tech team. They're 6-0. The offense is clicking on all cylinders under Chad Morris with Taj Boyd and all the weapons that he has. But you got to go on the road to Byrd Stadium and take on a desperate 2-3 Maryland Terrapins team. This has all the makings of the type of game that could jump up and ruin the Tigers' season.
So there was a lot of talk going into this game with Maryland for the fact that Clemson was now ranked 8th in the country, 6-0. Already had beaten 3 top 25 teams. This looked like the perfect trap game. Maryland was a team that had a good win to open the season against the University of Miami, but they were 2-3, had struggled on offense, and so they were going to make a change in their quarterback position and decided to start C.J. Brown for the first time in his career. He was more of a running quarterback than the guy they had previously. On the other side, we really weren't sure the whole week of the game about Taj Boyd's status because he had gotten hurt against Boston College, hurt his hip. And so we really didn't know until we went up there that Taj was going to be able to go.
Clemson and Maryland throughout the years for both sets of fan bases has always been, a really good game. You go back into the 70s, even the 80s, a lot of times Clemson and Maryland was for the ACC championship. Figure out who was going to win it. Been some classics between the two. 2011, though, Clemson is 6-0. They're ranked 8th in the country. Now, this is coming off 2010. Clemson has a losing season. They lose to South Florida in the Meineke Car Care Bowl. I always try to remind myself of that because of what it can be. Clemson finished with a 6-7 record. But 2011 was also the first year of the Chad Morris era, with him as the new offensive coordinator.
Maryland is a rowdy crowd. I mean, they're rambunctious. They're not the kindest people in the world, so you go down there for pregame warm-up, you get stretched out, throwing the ball around. You got people saying whatever.
This looked like it could be a trap game because of Clemson's history at the time. Now, we don't look at it this way today, but in 2011, over the last 10 years, Clemson had lost 9 games as a ranked team to an unranked ACC team. So they had a history of tripping up after we'd beaten some good teams and struggled against some teams that weren't as good. Plus, we had lost the last time we went to Maryland in 2009.
You go in there, and it's a Maryland team. Randy Edsall was in his first year. They were still kind of trying to figure it out, but you knew they were kind of dangerous, and they'd played some people tough. And so often in the past decade, Clemson had gotten off to a great start. Things were going great. 2007 was a great example of that. Dabo had been an assistant. Everything was going great, and all of a sudden they hit a wall. Was this going to be another one of those games where they hit the wall, where a term that has become a curse word in Tiger Nation was coined from all the years they had done in the past? Would that happen again to this Clemson team?
The verb Clemsoning, so it was being mentioned a lot that week, because people were wondering, when is Clemson going to have that moment where they just do what Clemson does and they lose that game they're not supposed to. Maryland was 2-3 at the time going into that game. They just got hammered by Georgia Tech the week before. They were starting a freshman quarterback. And so people were like, okay, this is the moments where Clemson would lose, because they're playing a team with a losing record that's starting a brand new quarterback. This is when they probably lose a game they're not supposed to.
Founders Federal Credit Union is your credit union. We are devoted to serving you through good and bad, and through highs and lows. We are committed to standing by you, our members, our communities, our family. Together, we can persevere through these times. We are your credit union, and we are here for you. Relax with Founders Federal Credit Union.
My dad was a Cuban refugee, and school wasn't really an option for him. He'd always encourage me and my sisters. He'd say, try different things, you know? If you want to be an artist, if you want to be a painter or musician, go for it. Because I received a South Carolina Education Lottery Scholarship, I didn't have to worry about the bulk of my tuition. And that's priceless.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with Zero Contact Service.
One of the things that we love about sports is that they're unpredictable. But that unpredictability can also drive you crazy as a fan, especially when your team is favored and going into a game where on paper it seems that the game shouldn't even be close. And that was the situation here going into this Maryland game. Clemson was undefeated. They had already beaten Auburn, Florida State, and Virginia Tech. So this was supposed to just be an easy game, get another victory in the ACC, stay ahead of Florida State in the Atlantic Division. But Maryland had different thoughts.
Coach Edsall had really struggled against ranked opponents, so you had a chance that maybe Clemson was going to be a little bit overconfident. And the Tigers, quite frankly, got off to a bad start, and it looked like it was going to be a trap game.
Just a vibe coming to that game. You knew it was going to be different, especially after the start. Like I said, they weren't the best touted team in the country, but we were undefeated coming to Maryland at the time. So from the very start of those kind of games, it's like, okay, hey, throw out all the predictions, throw out everything else, throw out even your own just self-biases about this team and know that, hey, we're playing a game.
So Maryland continued to play well in that first quarter and took advantage of Clemson's mistakes. Sammy fumbled a punt deep inside his own territory. Maryland recovers, and just 8 seconds later, Meggett scores to put Maryland up 7-3.
First down and goal to go from the 9. He'll hand it off. Meggett to the goal line, touchdown! David Meggett as Maryland capitalizes on the turnover.
And then Taj I don't know what happened. There was miscommunication with the wide receiver, but he just throws the ball right to the Maryland player, and he just takes it for a touchdown.
Here's Boyd. Threw it right to the defender. Intercepted by Chisholm. He's off to the races. Goodbye, touchdown. A 46.
And then I obviously made a boneheaded decision, and thought a guy was coming on the corner cat blitz, and I can't make open field tackle, so it is what it is, and they score, and I got to come back to the sideline and face the coaches and face the players and say, hey, guys, I'm sorry.
And Maryland hadn't done anything, and they're up 14-3, midway through the first quarter, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is what we expected.
So it's 14-3. Then the Tigers come back and score. Ellington, who would go on and have a great game in this contest, 212 yards rushing, he scores to make it 14-10.
We'll get it. Touchdown, Tigers. That drive set up by the kickoff return by Sammy.
Then we go into the second quarter, and Maryland scores 2 more touchdowns. So they go up 28-10, and they really did it behind Brown, who had an unbelievable game. You always hear about coaches not wanting to have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks because it spreads out your preparation time because you really don't know who the other quarterback is going to be. Well, it ended up that Maryland started Brown, who was a terrific runner. He ended up running for 162 yards in this game, and on those 2 touchdown drives in the second quarter, his running ability was really a key.
Like a week ago, they didn't have this kind of balance. So 1st and 10, Brown tucks and runs. Touchdown, C.J. Brown.
We definitely, at that point in the game had some doubts. We knew how explosive we were, but again, all of this is new to us. And so we had been in some adverse situations, but not this. We've been down 14 points, but not 18.
So it's 28-10, and then as we've seen the Clemson team do in recent years, the Tigers got the last touchdown of the second quarter just before the half, so it was 28-17 at halftime.
Back in sync now with 5:33 to play. Boyd to the corner of the end zone. Touchdown, DeAndre Hopkins.
In the first half, it was clearly evident that Clemson wasn't clicking on all cylinders, not only on defense, but offense as well, as the Tigers were struggling. But they did score right before halftime to make it 28-17, and would that touchdown be enough to carry momentum into the second half?
This segment was brought to you by First National Bank, helping businesses and individuals achieve their financial goals.
We're behind people rising to the challenge and neighbors looking after neighbors. We're behind small businesses with big ideas and struggling companies looking towards tomorrow. At First National Bank, we're behind every part of our community. We're working around the clock to ensure you have all the financial guidance and resources you need. And no matter what the future holds, you'll find us right where we've always been, behind you all the way.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Make the days count. Gatorade has carbs to fuel and electrolytes to help replenish, so you can count on the proven formula. Nothing beats Gatorade.
Now as the second half begins, it was all about what type of halftime adjustments had been made to allow Clemson's offense to finally get in gear, and also for the defense to be in position to actually make some plays and make some stops. And in the second half, we finally got to see the playmakers on both sides of the ball.
So it's 28-17 at the half, and then Maryland on their first possession of the second half, they go right down the field and score a touchdown on a beautifully executed play to their tight end.
And now they're in it, inside the 20, inside the 10, Furstenberg, touchdown, Maryland.
So it's 35-17, and then Maryland stops Clemson. They've got the ball up 18 points in the middle of the third quarter when Bashaud Breeland, then a freshman, turned in the most important play of the game.
And then on the very first play, they call a pass, and C.J. Brown just didn't see Breeland coming over. Breeland kind of baited him.
And he tries to throw one left side on about the numbers, and a freshman, Bashaud Breeland, is able to step in front of the receiver and make a great pick.
Bashaud Breeland's interception was nothing less than a big-time player making a big-time play in a big-time game, and that's what we needed. He stopped their momentum from being able to go up 42-17. That would have maybe deflated a lot of players, if not most of our team, in being able to come back after a halftime and being down that long.
And then after that, the Tigers scored on a touchdown pass to Sammy Watkins.
Boyd to the end zone. Did he catch it? Yes, he did. Oh, baby. Sammy.
When the comeback started to happen, that's when we started having fun. Because, what are we going to do? We're already down. The worst thing we can do is lose the game. But the best thing is we can go out here, man. We can rally the troops, win the football game, and look and do it in a spectacular fashion.
So after Sammy Watkins scored his first touchdown of the game, the Tigers then were able to come back and score again on a field goal by Catman after a nice 54-yard run by Ellington. Clemson got a stop, got the ball back, but had 70 yards to go along field, and Boyd and Sammy Watkins decided to hook up on a double move play of 51 yards. They got the ball to the 19. Boyd rolled to the right and threw it back across the field for a touchdown pass to Sammy, who made a nice leaping catch in the end zone.
Boyd pumps to the end zone. He has a man. Caught! Touchdown, Watkins!
Over the first half dozen games, we had seen Sammy Watkins' speed, we'd seen his toughness, we'd seen his hands. What we didn't realize until that moment is he could soar. And he goes way up in the end zone, way up, and pulls down a ball for a score.
The Tigers continued their excellent offense in the fourth quarter. First possession of the fourth quarter, drove down the field, and Taj Boyd connected with Jerron Brown on a touchdown pass to put the Tigers up 42-38. But Maryland wasn't through, and they came back and they scored a touchdown to take a 45-42 lead.
For some reason, don't ask me why, Maryland decides to kick the ball to Sammy Watkins. You could almost see it on Randy Edsall's face when Watkins caught that ball at the 11-yard line. He takes it 89 yards untouched for a touchdown.
From the 11. And look out. 89 yards.
So Maryland then gets the ball back, and they're actually moving the ball up the field. Remember, they only need a touchdown to go back ahead. But Maryland had a couple of penalties that really cost them on their next possession. And then the Tigers came down and scored again. Ended up winning 56-45.
For Clemson fans, this game was a roller coaster ride of emotions. No one could have ever predicted that it would be 56-45 at Maryland. But this also showcased that Clemson could win in different ways. You didn't have just to have a defensive performance. You could actually outscore people when needed. And it just gave Clemson even more confidence in knowing that they could learn how to win.
This segment was brought to you by Roto-Rooter. When you need a local plumber fast, call Roto-Rooter.
Roto-Rooter Zero Contact Service is your assurance that we're putting safety first. On the job, we'll keep a safe distance, wear boot covers, face masks, disposable gloves, and other protective gear. We're following CDC guidelines, washing hands, and disinfecting touch points. And we'll put on fresh gloves before handling your paperwork and credit cards. You can depend on Roto-Rooter to lead the way in safety with zero contact service.
So what makes your house a home?
Sitting on the front porch, relaxing at the end of the day.
Hands down, my wife's spaghetti.
A sense of security.
I'd say making it my own.
Playing with my son, definitely.
Or whatever makes your house a home, we're here to protect it.
America, we want to help get you back to it. And here's how, with the Ford Promise. Visit your Ford dealer. Finance a new, certified pre-owned or used vehicle through Ford Credit, and if you lose your job, you can return it for up to 1 year from the day you bought it. You can also get 0% APR financing for 72 months across the Ford lineup. Let us help get you back to it. Contact your Carolina Ford dealer today for great offers including 0% APR financing for 72 months across the Ford lineup.
$56-45 your final. Are you kidding me? This was like a video game being played. You can't turn your eyes away from the TV for even 5 seconds without a touchdown being scored, it seems like. A historic day for Sammy Watkins, a record-breaking day for Andre Ellington, an incredible performance for Chad Morris's offense. Keeps this Tiger team undefeated. They're headed towards the ACC championship game and perhaps something special in the postseason.
Boyd, like I said, did not have a good first half. But he comes back and at one point goes 11 of 12 throwing the football. He finishes with 270 yards passing in the game, but he shook off what was going on and was able to close out the game in just spectacular fashion. A lot of that, I think, was because of the coaching that Chad Morris was getting and freeing him up to be able to make the reads and make the throws that he could make. Some of the times was sitting back in the pocket. Other times, Taj was moving. Taj also wasn't afraid to tuck the ball and run with it. We saw the physicality of Taj in the game. But I think what we were beginning to see, particularly in this Maryland game, was a way that Chad Morris was rubbing off on Taj Boyd.
And to look up in those stands and see that small amount of Clemson people in there, man, in the corner of the end zone, screaming and cheering and throwing that stuff, it just makes it that much better, because winning at home is special. Winning on the road is better.
The biggest thing is if you can turn offense into a one-dimensional offense, then you have a great chance of winning that game, especially when you're at home, especially when facing a lot of adversity. But a little bit, Andre balanced us out so that we could get our hands back and be more in control in that game, because he rushed for 212 yards, and it just wasn't little rushes. He was able to gash them at times and be able to not just to deflate their defense, but deflate the crowd a little bit.
You put 56 points up on the board, you got to be able to do things pretty consistently, all right? So when you looked at the final stat sheet, Clemson rushed for better than 200 yards. They also threw for better than 200 yards in the game. I don't know that most Clemson fans know this fact or not, but that moved Clemson to 56-0-1 when they rushed for 200 yards and they threw for 200 yards in a contest.
Everybody always looks at that game and they talk about Sammy Watkins and that he, and he did. He had a great game, but Andre Ellington also had a great game, and he was so dominant, especially in the second half, running that football.
And I really think Andre Ellington, for all the star power that emerged in that 2011 team, with Boyd at quarterback, Allen at tight end, the two receivers, Hopkins and Watkins, he was a key factor because he was the go-to guy. They had others around him. Rod McDowell was a factor coming out of the backfield. But Andre Ellington, that night, whereas Boyd and Watkins redeemed earlier mistakes in that game and showed that they're as good as they'd proved in the first half dozen games, that night, Game 7, Andre Ellington made you step and realize and say, wow, he gives them the balance that maybe they necessarily haven't had, because when C.J. Spiller was really good, they maybe didn't have the amount of firepower they wanted at wide receiver.
Now, after the game, I went on the field as I always do, and I walk off the field with Coach Sweeney, and I usually give him some notes in the locker room to help him with his post-game interviews, press conference. But I couldn't wait to tell him after this game that Sammy had 345 all-purpose yards in the game, and that he'd already broken the all-purpose single-game record of C.J. Spiller.
What an incredible football game this was. One of my favorites from this era of Clemson football. What can you say about Sammy Watkins? An incredible all-purpose yard performance. And that kick return that he had, that is one of the seminal moments of this era of Clemson football for me. But it's the comebacks in this game. Coming back from 18 points down, not just one time, but two times. An incredible offensive performance for the Tigers. And that's what makes this one of Clemson's greatest games.
Clemson's Greatest Games is brought to you by Roto-Rooter. When you need a local plumber fast, call Roto-Rooter. And by First National Bank. Find a branch or ATM near you at fnb-online.com.